talking the movie Hell Girl, which is also known as Depraved. In fact, this movie was actually made as Depraved, and it was only changed later on to Hell Girl. I expect to coincide with the Hellboy movie. But to be fair, the title Hell Girl is actually probably more apt than Depraved to begin with, as it is actually a little bit more kind of conducive to what we see on screen. But I would say the movie, or the property at least, that this film reminded me of the most of is actually Scooby-Doo. So this one is written and directed by Lawrence Riggins. And the only kind of notable kind of named actor here is Tom Sizemore in a kind of a small role. So what is the story about? So it focuses on a group of ghost hunters who ride around in a kind of van, a la the Mystery Machine sort of style, solving apparent mysteries. Although in this case, a lot of their kind of previous exploits have been fake and kind of, you know, publicity and stuff like that. But they've been hired by Tom Sizemore's character to try and rid his kind of campsite of an apparent ghost. And when they're there, they also see a variety of signs for a missing child called Charity. And as the movie progresses, just like Scooby-Doo, there's a variety of clues, mysteries and puzzles that the team have to go through to try and uncover what the hell is going on. So what do we think about Hell Girl? So this movie is extremely low budget, so don't be expecting any type of high production values. This is a very, very low budget affair, and things like the effects will kind of show that on the screen. But let me talk about what works first of all. So for me, I think the thing that stands out for me the most with this film is the ambition in regards to its plot. Because this movie isn't simply an A to B kind of like, you know, ghost hunters turn up, they're haunted and they die. There is that to a certain degree. But this movie does try to have somewhat of a kind of more going on. There's kind of more kind of mysteries. There's more kind of character development in regards to some of the backstory. Some of the characters may have familial ties with what's actually kind of going on screen. And there's even one thing I quite liked here. There's an attempt to have almost different ideologies in regards to the supernatural elements. So we have a number of supernatural elements that are kind of there, and they don't particularly see eye to eye, which I found was quite an interesting dynamic to add to a film. So it's not quite as kind of simple as an A to B storyline that you get in a lot of these kind of low budget horrors. So I appreciated the attempt here to have a little bit more going on than your kind of your average kind of B movie horror. What else did I like? I thought the characters here were all very kind of individual, and just like Scooby-Doo, you have a very kind of diverse kind of group of characters here, all of whom serve a specific purpose, or at least that's what we're told, and who are all kind of different in personality as well as kind of you know, what they look like. You know, we have an Asian girl who's the security. We've got a disabled guy who's like the techie guy. There's a stuffy British guy who is the I think the kind of like the researcher or something. We have the jock guy who looks like a budget Vin Diesel, who's like your main sort of presenter, etc. So there's all kind of these different kind of very unique style of characters so that you're quite easy kind of following and what's kind of going on. And I have to say, although this is kind of a little silly, which we'll come on to, I actually thought this does have an element of fun. And there's enough going on here, do I feel, if you are a B-movie fan, that you can kind of appreciate some of the schlockiness. But what doesn't work, for me, the plot is just all over the place. It's completely nonsensical. So don't be expecting a mystery that you can kind of work with and kind of like solve yourself. You just have to accept that there's just massive plot conveniences, huge leaps in logic, and obviously gaping plot holes. Even to the point where our first body turns up, these guys are like, no, we need to solve the mystery, and one police person turns up who seems to have an endless supply of body bags and never calls for backup and stuff like this. So there's all sorts of kind of like silliness that is just going on just to further the plot in a particular direction. The body count is quite high, and the gore, although cheap, is actually kind of quite fun to a certain degree. The visual effects look a little weak. Well, they look very weak, let's not lie. But nonetheless, like I've said, I think you can, for me, that doesn't bother me as much, because I appreciate this is a kind of a lower budget film. But you won't be wowed with any kind of particularly kind of ghostly effects. For me, the best thing about this film was the kind of the aspects in regards to the different allegiances in regards to the supernatural stuff. I thought that was quite an interesting kind of development. Although it's never, I don't think it was particularly kind of dwelled on too much. I think there could have been a little bit more that was done with it. The acting for the most part is okay, but there are some kind of cheesy kind of moments, and everyone's in a little bit too caricatures rather than characters to a certain degree. So overall, it's kind of a middle of the road, low budget kind of B-movie horror. I think there's enough here to, if you are a fan of indie horror, there's kind of enough in regards to plot to kind of maybe keep you interested, but it's not going to blow anyone's socks off. And ultimately, it's not a film that you would kind of go back and watch again. It's fairly maybe a one and done sort of situation. So I'll give this one a 5 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.